Hello, I'm taking on a challenge to beat every playable Nintendo-published video game. The next game is Alleyway. Last week, we looked at the launch of the Game Boy and Super Mario Land, but we've still got more Game Boy launch titles to go through. This week, we're looking at Alleyway, which is a pretty shameless Breakout clone. Wait, another Breakout clone, like Nintendo's old colored TV game Block Breaker and their arcade Block Fever? Are we back in the 70s? Well, obviously not, but I do find it a bit surprising to see another clone game from Nintendo this late in the challenge. Perhaps because of this, I don't see Nintendo talk about this one a whole lot in interviews, although unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be as many developer stories in general for Game Boy games. Like the Game Boy itself, the development was headed by Nintendo R&D 1, and it appears that the Nintendo regular Intelligent Systems played some kind of role in its creation too, likely meaning they did the programming. The only other development tidbit I found was that R&D 1's Okada said that he worked on a multiplayer prototype of Alleyway using the Game Boy Link cable, but that never came to be. Now, something kind of interesting about the cover is that the Japanese cover doesn't feature Mario inside the paddle at all. He's clearly the pilot in-game though, so it's not like this title was thrust into the Mario franchise by the West or anything. Alright, that's all the history I've got for this one, so let's jump into my time with Alleyway. There's no options or anything, so after the title screen, I was thrown straight into the action. The opening cutscene shows Mario jumping into the paddle, and well, that's it. Not even the manual explains what's going on in this one. Hey, maybe this takes place after he flies off in that spaceship in Super Mario Land. Anyway, after this, a ball launched forward and it was time for some good old Breakout action, and yeah, that's exactly what this is. In the first stage, there was not much else besides bouncing the ball back up and destroying the blocks. I had a bit more control over where the ball goes than what I've seen in some of the older Breakout clones I've played, but it was still kind of tricky to clear out that last block. Okay, that's stage 1 done. Is there more? Yep, the game features 24 different stages, so I guess beating all of them will make for a good goal for this one. There is a default high score to beat here, but I already passed it before stage 2 was over. Speaking of, stage 2 was identical to stage 1, except now all of the blocks move. Honestly, I'm not sure this even makes anything all that harder, because the movements of the blocks can make it even easier to hit them in certain situations. Stage 3 was stage 1 again, but this time the ceiling slowly comes down. Well, remember how I said the game had 24 stages? It turns out there's only actually 8 different layouts and you play through each of them 3 times over. Yeah, not the most creative, but I guess it does help to shake up the formula a bit at least. Oh, there's also bonus levels after every 3 stages, and each of these are based on various Mario sprites. In these bonuses, you have a time limit to break as many blocks as you can, and your ball simply travels straight through the blocks instead of bouncing off of them. Hey, it's kind of like that mechanic from Color TV game Block Breaker. Well, I really wanted to clear out all of the blocks in time, but sadly the timer ended when there was only 1 block left. Darn. Stage 4 was stage 1, but with more spaces between each row. Wow, very creative. Hey, at least the rows moved in different directions during stage 5 this time. Oh, the ceiling is gone at this point, and once my ball hit the ceiling, my paddle shrunk. Honestly, compared to those older Breakout games I played, this wasn't all that bad. During stage 5, I passed 1,000 points, which gave me an extra life. I haven't really talked about it yet, but unsurprisingly, I did have a certain amount of lives in this one, as we can see in the bottom right corner. So far, the ball hasn't gotten all that fast or anything, so this doesn't seem like it will be very difficult. During stage 6, an entire second set of lines fell from the top as it moved. Oh boy, looks like some of these falling stages have more blocks too, huh? I also finally lost a life here. I'm still doing fine, but it's not like I have a ton of these, so I should probably be just a bit more careful. After stage 6 was another bonus level, and this one looked like a Koopa. Once again, I wasn't quite able to close this one out. Stages 7 through 9 featured this checkered pattern, and I got another life once I reached 2,000 points. Nice. In stage 8, the colors all moved at different speeds, which is kind of interesting, I guess. It always feels good when you get the ball stuck on the top. Once again, stage 9 featured another whole set of blocks past the top, and the bonus this time was a blooper. Stage 10 finally introduced something new, solid blocks that can't be broken. Well, technically, these were the blocks in the ceiling in the first set of levels, but now they were an actual obstacle. They didn't change the game a whole lot in level 10, but in level 11 they were kind of annoying since it was a lot harder to get the ball up to the higher blocks. Stage 12 was also kind of weird because eventually the solid blocks just got eaten up by the pale white void. The next bonus was a piranha plant, and this time I finally cleared every block. Doing so gave me a pretty hefty amount of points. It was more than enough to guarantee an extra life. Stage 13 featured a wave pattern. Yeah, a lot of these don't actually functionally change a whole lot. Honestly, it's kind of too bad they only used Mario sprites during the bonuses. I feel like a lot of these normal stages could have really used the extra flair. This chunk of levels was pretty easy, and I ended stage 15 with 7 lives remaining. Nice, I'm gaining more than I'm losing now. That's definitely a good sign. The bonus this time was a bullet bill, and I didn't even get close to clearing it. Hey look, they must have heard me complaining earlier, as the next set of levels featured Mario's face, and some random solid blocks on the sides too. Stage 17 was a bit interesting since those solid blocks on the bottom moved at a different speed from everything else, but yeah, at this point I pretty much had the game down. And yes, Stage 18 did feature a second Mario head, but this time he was facing the other way. What a shake-up to the formula. The bonus this time was a Goomba, and I nabbed another batch of points for clearing all the blocks out. For the next batch of levels, there were some solid blocks in the middle, and while this did make it a bit hard to reach the blocks on top, it also made the ball stay up there longer, so it kind of balanced itself out. During Stage 20, I passed 10,000 points, which made a flower appear near my score counter, and it looped back to 0. I didn't see them all during my playthrough, but apparently, at 20,000 points, the flower changes to a mushroom, and after 30,000, it changes to a star. You know, I would have thought the mushroom would have been before the fire flower, but whatever. The next bonus was a Cheep, and then it was time for the final set of stages. This one featured a ring of solid blocks with holes on the top and bottom. It was pretty easy to clear the blocks outside of the ring, especially since it was easy to get the ball stuck on top, but clearing out the last few blocks in the ring was definitely a bit tricky. Stage 23 was kind of weird since the ring got split into two halves that moved separately. It didn't take too long though, and up next was the last level. This time, the second stage that fell down had the solid blocks in a different pattern, and now it was a block on the top that I had trouble clearing out. After beating stage 24, it was time for one last bonus level, Bowser. Well, I didn't clear out the bonus stage, but after this, the game gave me a congratulatory screen for beating all 24 unique levels, and it said, "Nice play." The Mario sprite here kind of reminds me of how he looked in the art for the arcade Mario Bros. Anyway, the game starts to loop infinitely after this, so with that, my time with Alleyway was complete. On to the review. Honestly, compared to Super Mario Land, I found this one to be a lot less interesting of a launch title. I could see it being a decent time waster during a long car trip or something, but there's really just not a whole lot to Alleyway. It also doesn't help that it's yet another Breakout ripoff, and on top of that, it doesn't really add a whole lot to the formula other than the stage variants, which ultimately didn't even change much. If you're gonna copy Breakout, I feel like you've gotta do something a little more interesting to make it stand out. It's not like it's terrible or anything, the core of Breakout is still fine, but it's ultimately pretty forgettable. I gave Alleyway a 5 out of 10. With Alleyway complete, I have now finished 2 out of the 116 Game Boy games in the challenge, meaning I am now 1.72% of the way through all of the Game Boy games. Wait a second, didn't I say that there were 115 Game Boy games last time? Well, once again, I've made a slight change to what's included. Gen 1 for Pokemon is kind of a mess when trying to differentiate what counts as a unique title between the Japanese and Western releases. I'll go over more later, but basically I've decided to include one more title here than I was initially planning. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. If you want to see more of these in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss out on the next one. Also leave a like if you enjoyed it, since it will help the channel grow and motivate me to continue this series. I hope I will see you in the next step of my quest to beat every Nintendo game.